Hey guys, I want to share with you something so fascinating, something about our minds that I recently witnessed on myself, and I immediately saw the connection to insomnia behavioral patterns. So, I haven't been posting a lot on my Instagram page, and recently I posted a post about why I wasn't posting on Instagram. And the content of that post was basically about some sort of like procrastination that I feel particular resistance to creating anything on that particular platform because it's all about numbers. You write a post and then you see like, okay, how many people like it, how many people follow it, and then people subscribing, people unsubscribing from you. And what I witnessed, it was that my mind was going through a roller coaster with also this kind of like numbers. So when I was seeing like every time I saw someone unsubscribed from my like Instagram page or whatever, then I immediately felt this kind of like discomfort in terms of like, what if what I'm saying is not actually useful for those people? What if I kind of like lost the touch, or maybe whatever I say is just like not something that is like helpful to people? So I started doubting myself based on the numbers that I saw, whatever it was, like very tiny change. And that really bothered me for some time, and I felt very kind of like reluctant to write anything there because I felt like, oh, I need to write something great or I will not write anything rather. And so I wrote that post and I got like a bunch of positive feedback, actually, people saying that, and I agree with them, because like when you get better, you don't want to see any content about sleep, and it's natural that people kind of like unfollow, they stop watching videos and so on and so on. And I completely understand that, because that's exactly what I was doing when I was struggling with my insomnia. And I remember like I also like was like every time I slept better, it's like out of my sight, out of my mind. I don't want to hear about that anymore. And even though I realize that, even though I know that like fundamentally that's a kind of like a good sign, maybe there is some fraction of people that don't find me helpful or whatever, I don't resonate with them, that's okay. But still, like even knowing that, I feel like my brain is kind of like injecting some sort of doubt based on that like metrical or quantitative performance. And I thought, like, how is it so familiar, so similar to when we struggle with insomnia, when we experience that also like roller coaster. The moment when we get like a success in terms of our night, then we feel hopeful, we feel like motivated, we have like energy, we're positive, like things go easier, acceptance go easier, like everything just perfect, right? And then one night when it's not ideal, when the brain is like, oh, it's kind of actually a failure, and then immediately our confidence just goes to hell, and we are doubting ourselves, and all sorts of like things happen, and we just don't feel that encouraged and motivated anymore. We just see everything from different like lenses, and that is so fascinating, because it's exactly the same thing what was happening to me like recently, and what was happening to me during insomnia is just the same mechanism. But the reason why it is so painful, particularly during insomnia, is because I believe is that there are so many fears, and there is no way to kind of like escape from that experience. If in case with, I don't know, something doesn't go well, like your project at work doesn't go well, at least you can have like some peace of mind knowing that project is not your life. Project is just like whatever, something. But when we sleep, we kind of take it very personally. We take it as something like it's I am failing as a human being. Like human beings are supposed to sleep, are supposed to function. And if I cannot make that simple function happen, that I'm just failing as Homo sapiens or whatever. And that is like that is what I think makes it so painful. In reality, of course, no one is failing. No one is like, by not sleeping, we are not that doesn't mean that we are doing something wrong, or we are somehow like faulty, and so on. And that's just like fascinating, just to see it's the same exactly mechanism, but just in one area it feels like so important and so survival, in terms of insomnia. And then in other area, the same mechanism, it also brings discomfort, but it's not that strong, but it still brings the whole discomfort. But behind that, if you take away all this kind of like emotional turbulences, is the same kind of mechanism, is the same thing. The brain gets obsessed with control, and it wants to control, and it wants to see that it progresses. Not seeing progressing also kind of make it doubt. So the same happens when we begin to, let's say, analyze our nights. We go like, okay, I feel like I'm stuck. I'm not, I don't have that bad nights as I used to, but I don't have great nights. I kind of like, it's just the same. Like I hit plateau. And I'm not moving. I'm not progressing. I must be doing something wrong. And that kind of like the desire to always progress, desire to achieve a certain outcome is what creates the struggle, is what holds us back. So I just wanted to kind of like really give you like, just at least point out this particular similarity in terms of like the brain doing the same thing. It did it for me in sleep, and it does in other areas of life. But now I kind of like, I have this kind of like overview or different look at it, so I can see my mind doing that. It still does it. That's the point. Like it still does it. It still wants to chase numbers, just like it was chasing numbers with sleep. I wanted to get certain amount of hours, but it does now in other area of life. And actually that's a funny thing that happened. Like after I shared that message, when I shared like my kind of like real like feelings and frustrations, I felt better. I actually felt more accepting of, and then my mind kind of like shut up about it, just because I was willing to listen to it. I acknowledged that there is a part of me that kind of like craves some sort of control, that wants, I don't know, my project to grow and so on and so on. And by simply being in contact with that reality, with that, the feeling that I had, helped that feeling to kind of dissolve on its own. And I think there is a good learning point from this for anyone who is struggling with insomnia, is that the moment when we let our true feelings out, when we, let's say, vent our frustration, when we even complain to someone, when we really feel like I just want to get it out of my chest and share it with someone. What usually happens actually in one-on-ones when I have like clients, people actually start feeling better. Not because I said something magical or whatever, it's just because they let it out. They kind of like got in touch with that emotion. They were honest. They were not trying to hide anything. They were not trying to pretend. They just say like, yes, I am pissed. I really don't like the situation. I hate it. I wish I could sleep, and so on and so on. So it's just like venting the frustration seems to have so many benefits in terms of like it helps us move on, because instead of trying to cover our frustrations and other true feelings with some pretentious whatever approach, when we think like, oh, I should be this positive dandelion and should not allow a sleepless night ruin my mood the next day, when we realize like, yeah, sometimes it sucks to sleep, to have no sleep, and then we become okay with experiencing that frustration. That frustration goes away, and if we find a way how to let it out, either we can share it with someone, we can tell it to someone, we can, I don't know, write a letter or just put it in the diary. It doesn't matter how we do it, but just venting that frustration, being in touch with our true emotions, and being honest. That's what it's all about. Being honest removes so much pressure on ourselves, and we feel much better. This has often happened when I get like sometimes I get messages from people who are obviously in a very difficult situation. They're very frustrated, they're tired, they're scared, and all sorts of things happen. And sometimes they kind of like they vent that frustration on, let's say, even like they kind of complain to me, and then they feel bad for it, but I don't think that it's something that to feel bad for. That's why I'm here, right? But what happens is that after they tell me about their frustration, about like how they are like, I don't know, like they stop trusting themselves, they stop trusting the journey and everything, they want to give up and so on and so on. After a while, like, and actually it's after a very short period of time, maybe next day, they will write me something like, this night I actually slept well. And that's, to me, is like, it happens almost every time. Every time that happens, it's just the person finally let the like let the emotions be heard, and that what brought actual peace to them. That's the true power of like listening and communicating with your emotions, and just letting them be the way they are without trying to make anything out of it, without having any agenda. So yeah, I think this video kind of like flowed the topics. I don't know even how I want to name this video, but it came kind of like spontaneous because I just had this experience, and then I had more, like after I let that out, that frustration out, I found more kind of energy. I after that I had like a session with the client, and well, went really well. So I don't know, I just felt like sharing with you. Maybe something from it might be, resonating with you. I hope so. Okay, anyway, bye.